Welcome to another edition of the Corner Booth Podcast from Snowdon Deli Restaurant. I'm Aaron Rand, along with Lesley Chesterman, Bill Brownstein of the Gazette, and our special guest today, Terry Mosher. Aislin, Terry, welcome. Nice to have you here.
I was walking along the street doing Christmas shopping before the storm. I run into Aaron and I said, "What are you doing, Aaron?" He said, "I'm doing a show." I said, "You want another guest?" He said, "Yeah." So here we are.
But the truth is, I'm going to hold this up here. Terry, you have been kind enough this year to offer us this amazing graphic, which we are using to help support the Gazette Christmas Fund and the Starlight Children's Foundation this year. And the one I am holding, you were gracious enough to actually sign, to autograph, and we're going to keep this one and offer it up over and above what we're already doing now. And if you want to pick up one of these, by the way, you can go to historicanglos.com online and you can order one there. So Terry, thank you so much for doing that.
Absolutely my pleasure. Let me plug the Gazette Christmas Fund is the finest institution in town.
Which is why we're so happy that you offered us
great.
this year. Thank you. So this is our year-ender here, if you will. We're going to look at some of the big stories that made news. We have a fairly long list. So I thought we could jump right in by talking about Canada. So let me ask about the Canadian press's pick of the Freedom Convoy as the story of the year. Agree or disagree?
I don't know.
It was, but not a good one.
Yeah.
Are there better stories?
Well, it seems a long time ago at this point. That's the problem with these stories. Is you look early on in the year, and this is kind of, we'd like to put it behind us. It's kind of reminding us.
Yeah, but we see the world through Quebec eyes, so it doesn't
that's true.
resonate as much as it would for people who live, obviously, in Ottawa and the rest of the country. I happen to think they're much bigger ones from our purposes here. I mean, God knows. I think we've had a few language squabbles.
The election?
The election, yeah.
There was an election? Oh,
Well,
the
yes, I don't know if you
provincial
heard.
election.
Right. There have been some issues, but I can see where Canadians might choose that. Terry, what do you think?
Well, it was so uncharacteristic in terms of Canadians. We all thought, these truckers are going to show up, they're going to be polite, and then they're going to go away the next day. And the Ottawa police didn't even wake up for it. They thought, oh, this is easy. And that was the shocker, that the police forces could not get it together. And these guys realized it very quickly. And I did a cartoon, I think, of, when did Ottawa become the most interesting city in Canada?
Right.
Because when that was going on, it was really quite something.
I take what we've learned from there. I think Terry's point is well taken. The idea that I think most of us thought, oh, they'll be there for a day, they'll be gone by the next. Weeks later, they're still there. So obviously there's a lot been learned. And it took only, a week later in Quebec City, where they tried to basically do the same and where police didn't even let them get close to anywhere. So there was that lesson taken from that. For me, one of the big stories this year, and maybe for the wrong reasons again, Pierre Poilievre, coming out of nowhere, now leading the federal Conservative Party, and I kind of wonder how that's going to play out.
For him, it's going to be a gold mine.
Well, also, and the
those
embarrassing
funny Coke bottle glasses that he's trying to disguise, and the funny hairline, and the intense look. Oh, thank you.
And well, also the kind of embarrassing show of Jean Charest, who we kind of all thought maybe had a third coming, a second coming, a fifth coming. No way.
But evidently there's a problem. Women don't like him. There was a recent poll that suggests that women... This is why Justin Trudeau just manages to hold on to power over and over again.
Because of the women?
The women. Women don't like Poilievre. Well, the surveys show.
No, he's right about a survey showing women do not support Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, but they like Trudeau?
Well, yeah.
Right. Women don't like him.
Would you like to speak on behalf of all women?
Well, I would like to speak on behalf of...
Poilievre?
No, absolutely not. But I'm also wondering if there is... I was watching an interview the other day on French News with Trudeau, and I was thinking there are a lot of women who kind of like Trudeau because he's a cute young man. I don't like to think that either. No,
Actually,
I mean,
Lesley, do you know him?
No. Well, I've met him in person, but
he's a lot smarter than you think.
No, but I hope that people don't just like him because he's
a nice young man.
A nice young man.
That's right. Yeah. That move this year, forming the alliance with the NDP, was brilliant.
Yeah.
So he's guaranteed a free ticket, and then he has the choice of either resigning, say I served 3 terms, or
running again.
He's still a young man. That was the theory, right? He would in fact step. You think he's going to step down?
No. I think he sent the word out to Christopher Freeland, who had ambitions, hopes, and all the rest that ain't going to happen. No, he's going to keep going, I hear.
Interesting.
And
Especially 'cause of the
she's going to
women.
go and run the UN, right?
Perhaps.
Turned down that job, I thought.
Well, there could be issues.
Doesn't want it. The Corner Booth Podcast is brought to you in part by Guaranteed Industries. In business since 1957, taking care of all your heating and air conditioning needs. And remember, they're a Lennox Premier dealer. Guaranteed Industries online at guaranteedindustries.com or call 514-342-3400. Let's talk about, and I know this is particularly one of interest to you. We talked about this last week. Legal sports betting now in Canada, which has gone completely crazy. You cannot watch a hockey game without seeing 20 ads for legal sports betting.
I cannot believe the way they're suddenly trying to normal. Do you remember Pete Rose? Yes.
Sure.
How all of a sudden they've turned around 180 degrees on like betting and all the rest. This is an addiction of like great proportion, and yet we watch all the like Wayne Gretzky, all these young hockey stars, these actors, like normalizing something which is not something to be normalized. I find it shocking. I mean, from an addiction point of view, it's terrifying.
Yet it's perfectly legal. It's ubiquitous now. Does this bother anybody else? Is it just me and Bill?
Sure.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah?
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Money.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Money talks.
Let's talk Montreal. Looking back, it seems a lot of the things that happened here happened later in the year. I guess we could start with pedestrian safety, but before we even get to that, can we talk construction again? I know we've done this before, and we were talking the other day. We had the mayor on our show, and this idea that, and sadly this comes after the tragic death of that little 7-year-old girl, but the idea that the mayor could say, the problem is we have too many cars. And I don't understand where that becomes the issue. There are not going to be less cars. We're not taking cars away from people. How is that any kind of a solution or beginning to any kind of a solution?
What is overlooked in all of this is the fact that you take away one major entry point into the city, the tunnel, Louis Hippolyte Tunnel, and suddenly you've got people like in areas where the young girl was killed, where cars are like all jamming to get over the Jacques Cartier Bridge. I mean, that's what's lost is there's so much construction, people are so irate, so impatient, and accidents happen.
There's the lack of a plan. You close one
Right.
route. You've told people take public transit, do whatever you have to do, and don't consider that what people do is they find solutions.
Right.
They find streets that they would never go on because they know it'll take them somewhere. Where's the plan?
No plan.
And where's the plan with construction? Why does all construction seem to happen all at the same time? I said the one thing the city doesn't account for is frustration of people who drive cars.
Exactly.
Where is that?
And there's no control. It's not just road construction. I mean, and there's so many levels of government involved there. All these condos going up. There's construction. There's no team plan to figure out, well, wait a second, this is going to impact this is going to impact that. No, they have no plan. And they have accidents as a consequence.
And by the way, if you thought we were done with Camellia Hood, we're not.
Ah.
Back in the news because now, of course, the mayor's decided the thing we need more of is less parking.
Right.
So we're going to lose 40% of the parking where families go up on weekends to use Beaver Lake or enjoy the mountain and get rid of that. So we're paving. Right?
We're unpaving,
We're paving the parking lot.
We're
into
unpaving
paradise.
We're unpaving
Yeah.
the parking lot to put up a paradise.
What do
yes.
we think about this?
So you've got Hood in Montreal, and now you've got Duplessis in Quebec City. Wow, we're going back to the 40s.
Good old days.
Good cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm glad that you're getting ideas from here. This is good.
That's why I'm listening.
This is strong. Well, what do you think of this, though? I mean, the mayor's, obviously this happened during COP15, which I think was a little bit of grandstanding. You want to look good for all these delegates from around the world to announce a plan like this. What do we think about this?
I actually disagree with you guys.
How do you just say?
I disagree with you
okay,
guys.
but how do you just say, well, we took a look at the parking,
Right.
and it's usually empty 5 days a week. And of course it's empty 5 days a week. People work. They go there on weekends. Why would you take away that parking?
Okay, how are
Put up
people getting there?
AstroTurf
By public transportation, how are people getting to the mountain? Depends what part of the mountain they're going to.
You can't get around the mountain. There's one bus.
One bus.
The 11.
Yeah.
Yes, but when it comes to, the mountain is one situation. When it comes to so many other things, how many of us really are taking their car when we could take public transportation? I went to the book fair at the Palais des Congrès. There was no parking. There's tons of traffic. I was swearing, screaming. And then my boyfriend says to me, how about just taking the metro? I got home in 20 minutes. There are too many of us in cars who aren't looking enough at public transportation as an alternative way of getting around the city. And I think there might be a little bit of walking involved, which is only good for you. But I do think a lot of us in our cars are not making enough of an effort to
All
use
right.
public transportation.
Now, I brought up the mountain specifically for a point. How are you supposed to take your picnic stuff, your barbecue, all your
Kids
kids
in
and everything
strollers,
else
yeah.
on public transport?
It's not just about the people barbecuing.
No, but it is. It's about families who use their cars
Right.
and pile their pets in and pile their barbecues in. That's how they get to enjoy the mountain. How is public transport an option for them?
It's not. Leslie's right. I mean, but the point is, I'm very fortunate. I live downtown. I can walk anywhere. I hardly ever use a car anymore, and I love it. But then there are other people who, like families, they can't get around. They can't go shopping, and they can't do stuff. So it's not. It's a difficult
I think
situation.
Aaron's right. I think people find solutions. Mine is a simple one. I live in Lachine, right?
You stay there.
Pretty much I stay there, yeah. But I was doing that years ago. But when I do go downtown, I take my car to La Vérendrye,
And hop on there.
get on the metro, and
Yeah.
it takes me right down anywhere I want to go, and then come back and get in the car, and I'm home.
I'm not
So
disagreeing.
But what the point is that so many people are finding solutions, and also I would suspect, I haven't seen a survey, that a lot of people in Montreal prefer staying home more than any other city.
We like our
Maybe
backyards.
because they can't get around.
No.
Maybe that's part of the reason for that. Listen, I don't disagree with you. I think if public transit was better and more, for most people anyway, more convenient, I think more people would use public transit, but it's not.
You know, where I live in town in Montreal, they've been working on that tunnel, the new train system that's
Right.
going to go down. It was 8 minutes to get from TMR to downtown, which could take you 30 minutes. There are ways of doing it, but of course that construction is so late at this point. I mean, we've all been sitting there, the traffic's terrible. Why? Because everything is taking so long. So, ultimately, will I be 70 by the time I take this
70?
train?
I
It'll
will
be
tell
a
you,
long
too,
time away. as we go.
Someone else pointed out, if you live in Laval, and I don't know this being accurate, but he certainly seemed like he knew the numbers. It costs you $9 to go from Laval to get into the city. He said, it costs me less to drive my car
Yeah,
than to
that's
take
true.
public transit. So why would I take public transit? So I think we need, again, better planning. There doesn't seem to be much of it as far as that goes.
I think they need a whole PR, a whole
Yeah.
wave of, they really have to figure out a way, the city, to push, not just say take public transit, make it even easier for people or demystify it, or they need a whole publicity campaign for public transportation
Sure.
in the city.
You see, but what's lost in all of this too is the economic engine of the city is downtown. People aren't going to shop downtown. They're not going to go downtown. They're going to go to the South Shore. They're
Right.
going to go to the West Island. They're going to go Laval. They're going to go anywhere, and they are already.
Royal Mount.
And you see, what's lost is who's going to pay? Taxes are going up. You have to have an understanding that if the downtown area is your bread and butter, you got to do something to make that attractive.
I think you just uttered the words that I'm even more scared of now than anything else. Did you just say Royal Mount?
I did say Royal Mount. Yes, I did.
Do you know what kind of a mess? Do you know the traffic situation there now already?
Oh, terrible.
How are they going to account for
Joe.
another 50,000 people
Right.
trying to squeeze into that little corner?
Yeah.
That ought to be fun. We'll
Right,
come
right.
back and talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Let's talk from a world news sort of basis right now. Big news story of the year. I guess we all have to say Ukraine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. Again, talking about things that are still going on. Did we think this would be still going on 10 months later?
No.
Started in February. It's now December, and there's still no solution in sight.
We all thought it would be over in a week.
Yeah.
Because of the Russians, right?
There's a craftiness to this. It occurred to me the other day, I was thinking about Ronald Reagan. He defeated communism by building up the arms race without firing a shot. It just brought Russia to their knees. I think Biden has studied that book. He's going to pour arms into the Ukraine and not fire a shot and bring Putin to his knees. It occurs to me that's what he's doing.
Right.
And Congress like it, and God knows the arms people love this.
Sure.
Right.
So I think he's without sending drones, send them whatever they want. But the Americans are not fighting each other.
Right.
Despite the Russians saying, if you do that, there was that threat,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's just talk.
He threatened the atomic bomb right at the
Right.
beginning
Yes.
of this.
Yeah.
He's
Here's hoping, but I mean, when you go to bed at night, don't you think that there's a crazy person who is sitting there with an atomic bomb? And I mean, there's this feeling all the time that he could blam. It is just talk, or is it? Or is it? I mean, how bad will things get?
I don't think his generals will let him do that.
Here's hoping.
I don't think his generals have any say in it. I think he'll kill them all if he had to, right? No?
I don't know.
We'll see. This is going to be a weird year.
Let's move on from that and talk about something that happened relatively late in the year, the death of Queen Elizabeth. I know so much was taught, and I understand there's an entire Commonwealth, and obviously it affects a lot of people around the world. Bigger story than it was or not?
No.
Bigger story in that what will happen to the monarchy now that she's gone. Mm-hmm. That is the bigger story. And
the future of the monarchy.
Even this Netflix
Maybe
situation.
Harry and Meghan is bigger.
Well, but that's true because
is.
That's kind of an outcome. And what is the future for the monarchy? And what is the future for the monarchy in Canada, where in Quebec already is eroding away in certain, the government and all this. Why do we still need the monarchy? Isn't it, shouldn't it, why,
Well, I know we need the monarchy. It's our form of government. I mean, in Quebec, you don't no longer have to swear an oath to the king, queen, whatever. Great.
That's very significant.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very Canadian way of doing things. In other words, you pass a small bill here, and then it just kind of, the argument dies and they can't go to the barricades, and it just sort of falls, and so it will disappear in Quebec, and it's disappearing in the rest of the country.
And there's been no protest whatsoever against that. Everybody's in agreement that we shouldn't be
had to be done. It's how it had to be done.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you want King Charles on our money?
I don't care if
You don't
Meghan
care?
and Harry are on our money. It's the same.
I care.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want him on our
You
money.
don't want to see the king on the money? That's your
No.
giant concern as far as the monarchy
No, and I'm
goes?
half
Okay.
English. No. They can stay in
Please
their
sample
country.
the panel here. Anybody else concerned by having King Charles on money?
Is he?
Meh.
No? Okay, good.
Man, okay.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Put Terry Fox on there. I don't.
To put Terry Mosher.
Okay.
Terry Mosher.
Terry Mosher also good for the money, yeah.
Oh, that would work.
Yeah. Speaking of money, unprecedented inflation. We haven't seen anything like this in a I don't know if I was going to say in a generation, but certainly in the last 15 years. And it's for the first time affecting people who thought their homes would be an appreciating asset. That's turned out to be not the case for right now. Big story this year, 7 hikes by the Bank of Canada in interest rates. And is it over?
No.
Are you worried about heading into a recession?
I'm worried that my grocery bill keeps going up every
Yeah.
week, and it's really uncanny because I buy a lot of groceries, and I'll tell you. And you see, it's on a basic level for somebody paying $20 for a chicken, now paying $32 for a chicken. That's where people will really notice
$32
it.
for a chicken.
Oh, for sure.
Expensive chicken.
Yeah. Well, that's not even a luxurious chicken, by the way. That's
There are luxurious chickens?
Yeah. Oh,
Just
don't get me started.
Generic chicken.
But it's what affects people
Is it a
every
chicken
day.
on drugs?
Well, no, it's a supermarket chicken. But it's
But
what
but
affects
you're
people
right.
every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about inflation, everything, but when you feel it buying gas, when you feel it buying your groceries, when you feel it buying school supplies for your kids, that's where people feel it on a daily basis.
Are you worried? Does this get worse, or do you think we're at the end of this?
I don't know.
One of my favorite cartoons of the year was a banker, and he's actually a pig, looking very, very happy, and he's saying, "Don't worry about inflation. I'm going to be okay."
Right.
Great line. The Corner Booth podcast is brought to you in part by the Snowdon Deli, serving Montrealers since 1946 and home of the city's best smoked meat sandwich, the Snowdon Deli, DeCarry Boulevard, north of Queen Mary Road. And then, sort of as an adjunct to that, cryptocurrency and the collapse of crypto.
Never understood it in the first
Well, you
place.
should have asked Pierre
Unbelievable.
Polyev, because apparently he didn't either. But
Did you understand cryptocurrency?
Did anybody
Big story.
here invest in
no,
crypto?
I did. I did about 6 or 7 years ago. I made well over $1,000. So, yeah,
Never
So you didn't lose
huge, huge
But
gain.
that was a sort of like a investing in marijuana stuff. Kind
Same
of
idea. Yeah, exactly.
Warren Buffett said, I don't buy any because eventually I'm going to have to sell it for dollars, right? So why bother?
No one got into crypto. Now, of course, the big story, that multi-billion-dollar bust in FTX, that cryptocurrency exchange.
Another Ponzi scheme, but we had to see this coming.
How do you not see this coming?
I know.
really, is the
I had a
question.
lot
How
of
does that
friends who
happen?
invested in crypto.
30-year-old kid.
Looking like he can't afford a good pair of jeans and a T-shirt,
Or a haircut.
ripping people off for $4 or $5
Yeah.
billion.
Yeah.
It's quite a story.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's Bernie Madoff, the next generation, I guess.
Yeah.
All right,
Netflix series to come.
let's move on. Well, let's talk. You mentioned Netflix. Let's talk entertainment. Big entertainment story of the year. What was it for you?
Harry and Meghan.
Harry and
I
Meghan.
gotta
Meghan,
say,
yeah.
Harry and Meghan.
And I got to say, the last 3 episodes were far more interesting than the first
Yeah.
3 episodes.
I thought it finished on a very sad
Yeah.
note. I thought the whole thing was sad.
Whether
these
or not-
people-
But now the book's coming out.
Yeah.
Oh yes, the book to come, Spare.
Got legs, the story.
Yes,
It's got
yes.
Then the
legs.
board game and the video game, is that what's
yes,
the
Sure, of
story?
course.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. No, that was a big. I mean, again, back
And
to
the
the monarchy.
figurines,
It's,
yeah.
it's starting to fray at the seams. I'm
So
sorry, but
I don't want to dwell on it, but you watched all 6 episodes?
Yes.
we
Could
had
it
to
not
for the
have-
podcast.
Could it not have been done in an hour? Did we really need 6 episodes of
the
this?
highest rated Netflix
Yeah.
series ever.
They got
So
100 million for
They
it. so
probably
had
could
to
have pulled
do
out
at
9
least-
episodes.
There's a Donald Trump element here,
Yes, there is.
in that people are shocked and they're appalled, but they keep watching.
Can't stop watching.
Yeah.
Keep watching because our
And-
attention span is now that of a gnat,
Yeah.
and so you've got to keep feeding it, feed the animal, and what did she say now? What did she say now? This, that, and the other.
Hard to believe it did better than the Queen's Gambit. But there you
And
go.
speaking of Donald Trump, he won't go away.
No, it's.
Is this the first step in him going away? This whole thing, first of all, with the cards, which was just basically mocked everywhere.
No,
These
he-
collectible cards.
He may not be president, but he'll still be around. And remember, there is that 30 to 40% of the Republican Party who still love this guy. So he's got a guaranteed money-making machine in there. Charging $100 for a card
Yeah.
yourself.
Digital card.
Right.
I would have loved to have drawn
Yeah.
and designed. He's going to be there, just as it's interesting. We didn't talk about the similarity between Polyev and the Republican movement in the states, and also tied in with the truckers. So we now, the truckers gave us this, at least an awareness that this hardcore, stupid,
Right, existed, right.
Republican-based exists here in Canada.
But do you think he will have as much influence going forward
Not
as
if
he
he's
has?
indicted. Not if he's put
who?
away.
Trump?
He won't be indicted.
Oh, do you want to bet?
You think
Do you
he'll
wanna
ever
bet?
go to jail?
I don't think so. No.
Oh,
So we got 2 for not indicted.
I'm
You wanna
betting.
bet?
Oh,
I'd
I'm
like
going
to
to say
see
he
him
gets.
indicted.
There are 4 charges against him.
Yeah.
I think one of them will, in fact.
I think he'll
Be
be. I think
prosecuted.
He
he'll
won't
be
go to
indicted
jail.
for sure.
He won't go to
Yeah,
jail.
Ah,
No,
but-
be indicted, and even at that, I'm not so sure. They're worried about a civil war, like if that will break out. I mean,
Okay, we
But
would be
none
remiss.
of us really know.
Yeah, we don't.
None
if
of
we
us
don't
really
mention
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Elon Musk.
Elon,
because that's
go on,
just
Terry.
Oh,
insane.
my man.
your man.
So now you published, or you were about to publish, a cartoon in the Gazette, which they opted not to publish.
Well, they thought it was over the top, and they have the right. My deal with the Gazette is a real simple one. It's a great one, actually. I draw cartoons for them a couple a week, and then I do a lot of extra stuff. And they have the right to print it or not, but they pay me anyway.
Ooh.
So how perfect is that?
Good.
So we got a new.
I just want to write that
we got a
down.
new
I like that
we got a
deal.
new editor
So
down there who's a little sheepish about, nervous about. He's from Toronto, so he doesn't quite understand how things work here. Anyway, so he got a little cautious on some things, but he phoned me about this one because I drew nice subtle thing. I drew the Twitter symbol. With a sort of a Nazi kind of hat, and then an armband, but it didn't have it had an E on it. The armband, nice subtle thing.
a big letter E, yeah.
Yeah, like the red armband.
Yeah.
You don't figure that one out, right? Anyway, he called, and we almost laughed a little bit. He said, "Terry, I know that this creates discussion, but I can't print this." I said, "Well, that's okay, because I have a deal with the Gazette." I explained to him. I said, I own the copyright in the cartoons, so if you refuse not first rights, then I get to put it on Facebook
Right.
and Twitter and all over the place.
On your own accounts.
And he said, "You're going to put it on Twitter?" I said, "Yeah, I am." So the last count, there were 250,000 views on Twitter. So, which is a lot more than the circulation of the Gazette. So the cartoon gets out there.
Right,
You develop these. Years ago, I used to phone Gord Sinclair, CJD, when they killed a cartoon, and he'd describe it on air. We always have a way of getting these things out.
Quarter of
The
a
bottom
million
line
views.
is he didn't
Wow.
get suspended from Twitter for
I didn't
posting
get
it on
suspended.
Twitter.
They
which
got
is-
big fish to fry, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty big
but
fish.
that's a fair hit. Yeah.
So let's get to, because we're going to have to wrap up here, let's get to something you'll be able to fill us in on. Restaurants.
Oh.
Best new restaurants. What's happening?
Mustard is the best new restaurant in Montreal.
Mustard?
Yeah, Mustard, Mastard.
Like mustard,
Like
but with
mustard
an
with a nice pronunciation.
Yeah, well, okay. I can't remember why it stands for, but the chef is a wonderful guy, very humble chef called Simon Métis. He makes absolutely beautiful food, and he was nominated as Chef of the Year, but he really is fantastic.
Okay.
Really, I mean, when I say humble, it's almost frightening, but
So
real
best new
talent.
restaurant.
Where is this
Mustard.
located?
It's on near Papineau and on the plateau.
Okay.
should
One
have had
more
the
to
address.
put in that list, or is that pretty much?
Well, I think the big story also is Bill wrote a big story that's very interesting to any Montrealers who know about the restaurant scene, is that the former owner of Moishes, Lenny Leiter, has started to work with Costas Filiadis of Milos fame, who's opening up restaurants all over the world. And the reason that, to me, that is super interesting is that in the whole restaurant world, we're talking about these little restaurants like Mustard and these chefs and this and this and this, but actually one of the most famous restaurateurs in the world is Costas Filiadis. The fact that this great Montreal restaurateur, Lenny Leiter, went to work for him is really a big story.
It's quite a marriage.
Because
Yes.
they're taking over the world. It's not just Toronto, although he's going to open up in Toronto.
Most restaurateurs trying to stay alive after the pandemic. He's opening 6 restaurants around the world.
In London, New York, 2 in New York. I mean, this is a big story that actually the French press doesn't cover. And I think it's a shame because really we have the greatest restaurateur in the world, arguably in our city, and he really only gets covered by the Gazette. I mean, this is a big story.
Well, the other part of that story is that Lenny Leiter, who ran the family business Moishes for years and years and years, after then Sports Scene bought it, and then he had a contract that ran out, so he has bolted there to work with him, and the two of them together are quite
and they've known
colossal.
each other for years and
Yeah.
years and years. And by the way, Moishes was supposed to reopen. It never has.
It's
going
going
to.
to in the spring in
Right.
Old Montreal.
Now, I could mention one thing related to the story. I spoke to Lenny a few weeks ago, and he tells me there is no truth to the rumor that it will be renamed Moishlos, like half Milos. So I just wanted to point that out. That there will not be a name change, just so everybody knows.
Good one.
All right, that's it for us. Terry Mosher, yes.
Restaurant.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
It's
sure.
well known that Lesley and I eat in different kind of places. My favorite restaurant in town is the LaSalle Drive-In down in Ville LaSalle. They've got the best old-fashioned cheeseburger in the world. Just an old-fashioned cheeseburger.
But it's not a drive-in, though. It's a restaurant.
It's not a drive-in. You
It's just
drive
called
up
the
and you
LaSalle
go in,
Drive-In.
Because
Okay.
it used to be that
Someone
they
on roller skates observing you?
no, nothing like that. Just Greek people in there serving you. It's wonderful.
Okay.
But let me tell you a story. We were so excited about doing something. Mary, my wife, is a painter. She's a much better artist than I am. She's just not funny, right? And she does occasional paintings for the editorial page under the name.
You know her name?
Gigot. That's
Gigot.
right. I'm sorry, I was getting mixed up.
Like Gigot
Which
Daniel.
one? That's her
Maiden name?
mother's maiden name.
Okay, mother's.
Does beautiful street scenes. Well, on the New Year's Eve Gazette on Saturday, she's drawn my restaurant,
The LaSalle Drive-In.
LaSalle Restaurant, but it's on Christmas Eve, and the place is filled with Santa Clauses stoking up with energy.
That's great.
Before they deliver the goods.
Well, if
It's
we're
a
going to do
beautiful
that,
thing.
Bill, you have a favorite restaurant?
Yes. Many.
Do you want to tell us what it is?
Yeah.
Or
I told her I love this new place, Chez. We talked about
Yeah.
this on Notre Dame near Mountain. A great Lebanese spot with the best baba ganoush and hummus I have ever tasted in my life. It's fabulous.
Okay.
Do I get another one?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
by
okay.
all means.
For takeout, Imperial Grill, the best Portuguese chicken in Montreal. It is out of this world. I put it in a Gazette story years ago, and every time I have those panic nights where I can't make dinner, I order from them. Great people, fantastic Portuguese chicken. I eat way too much of it.
Where's Imperial Grill?
Imperial Grill is up on Jerry, but they deliver. They're on Uber Eats and all kinds
Okay.
of apps. Really highly recommended.
Here's something we haven't mentioned, and it ties into this. Most people now are getting the restaurant information from TikTok.
Oh, for sure.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, the growth of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I watch it all the time for just how people are feeling this.
You know,
that,
they know where you live, Terry.
Yeah.
They know what you eat. They know what you wear. They know
But
your
doesn't
height.
everybody else?
That's a good
Oh, there
point.
is that. Yeah.
Right.
That's
and you,
it.
Aaron, a restaurant?
I have a favorite place we like to go to called Primo Secondo. It's in Little Italy. I love it
Classic.
because it's a small restaurant, and in the summer you can actually sit outside. There's only 2 tables, and it's fun. It's easy. I know that people have been going there for years, and I think their food is for Italian food. It's simple, but it's really, really good. So that's
Tres
my favorite.
Maria, are they still there?
Which one?
Tres
The
Maria.
Three Mary.
I don't know.
Yep. Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yep. Very good.
Love that place.
All right, that's it. That wraps up this edition of the Corner Booth Podcast. I want to thank our special guest, Terry Mosher, Aislin, for coming down today. Bill, Lesley, myself, wishing you a very happy holiday and all the best for 2023. We will see you in the new year.